anschauen.
Können wir loslegen oder sollen wir auf Sie warten, dass die Tür zumacht?
Sollen wir anfangen?
Ja. Können loslegen.
Okay. Welcome to our session of SIGTIC. My name is Cornelia Gut, and we would like to give you some insights how founders should prepare for funding. So from my background, I studied economics, was many years in banking and consulting, and now I'm a business angel and also in the board of SIGTIC, and I'm also head of a foundation in the eastern part of Switzerland. It's called Startfeld. I've personally about 15 investments. You see a few of them here, also exits, and yeah, I look forward to this session, and we hope also that it will be interactive, and we will make it also interactive.
Yeah.
So I give it to you over.
Good. So yeah, hello everyone. My name is Stefan. I run like the operations for SIGTIC and the partnership, including the investor community. My background is I worked nearly 20 years in Google and strategy across EMEA. Angel investor like for many years as well. I'm not only looking after Switzerland, like I'm looking for interesting startups globally, and was lucky to have already seen a couple of exits. I'm also very often involved in accelerators as a mentor for a couple of startups and advisor to like actually learn a lot about what's going on, and it's always amazing to spend time with founders. On the side, I have an own investment syndicate that only invests in ex-Google people who like build new startups, so leverage the 20 years I've been in the organization. And yeah, joined SIGTIC because I think like the Swiss startup ecosystem is a super exciting one. That's a lot of great stuff happening. If you're a founder, you're working on the future here. So we'd like to make sure with our community we can continue to support this. But let me give you a few words around SIGTIC first. So we are a non-profit. So if you're a startup and you're a founder, you're looking for funding, if you come to us and say, hey, I look for funding, can you help me? We would not take any equity or fee or whatever. We live basically from the membership fees from angels or family offices who lack the access to interesting startups. And we basically do the matchmaking between those who look for money and those who have the money. That is something that we do across all industries, help on pre-seed and seed stage, and hope that founders don't have to spend too much time looking just for money, but can focus on building a product, talking to partners, customers, or users. And we were like lucky that in the last year we could support with our community more than 120 Swiss startups. With like average 500,000 ticket size from them. Doesn't mean they individually have such a high amount, but aggregated across, let's say, 10, 15 angels. So if you have a great team, great product, you will find the early stage money in Switzerland. It's more like a question, what are the different formats? And there are some, like with our events that we're doing, where I think we can really help those great ideas. So we were lucky with this effort. We're now around for 10 years to really help the ecosystem to evolve. We're doing a lot of education as well to make sure people understand what does it mean to do angel investment, so that also like expectations are aligned from the founder and from the investor side, that investors are not getting too greedy, asking for unrealistic terms, so that this is kind of helping the overall success of a startup. Today we'd like to talk about like stories we've seen over the last years, what founders tell us. They come to us when they look for money, and we just like have a couple of quotes that are more or less in the way comments that we received in the past. And we're just like giving back and forth, like we've seen a lot of like quotes, and it's just like, give you one example, is like we have founders who came to us and said, I'll start to work on my idea once I've raised 500,000. Why should an investor, doesn't matter if it's a VC or angel, invest in you? You haven't even started, you're not committed at all. You can start now, even without money, start to build an idea how things could look like. If you have done nothing, don't even go to any investor and ask for money. Want to go next?
Yeah. Or we have also often the comments, oh, I built my startup, but I still have my job and I do it on my, like a hobby on the weekend. And this is not what we are looking for, because we want somebody who is fully committed and has a vision, and not that he's not risk-taking, because if they still have a job, they have their salary and everything, and we as investor would go into full risk. So this is a no-go for us, but we often see this.
Yeah, it's understandable. They know you need to pay your bills. Like when you live in Switzerland, you have obviously costs, but the reality of the game is if you're not committed, you will have it really, really hard to find someone to give you money to get started. I love my startup so much that I want to work there until I retire and then hand it over to my children. Investors at some point want to see some form of exit. That might be not a scenario they would like to see. So investors have a lot of different reasons. Angel investors might not just invest for the money. They want to learn about an industry, want to give back because they had a great career. That exists for sure as well. But generally speaking, those people who put in money, ideally, want to get it back.
Or another quote is that they tell us, oh, they fully work only remote, and they have all freelancer, and there's never coming together the team. And I'm convinced remote working is good sometimes, but not always. It needs a team who is getting together and sharing their thoughts and working together. It can be that they are often at home or around the world, but sometimes they have to work together.
Yes, and also if you only work with contractors and freelancers, they don't have a skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So if they're not paid, they move on. And that is a really important part as well. So we are 2 founders and our 6 employees are CEO, CTO, CFO. I think you get the point. Don't overdo it, because the first question is here, like, who's doing the work? So like in an early stage startup, people need to get their hands dirty, and job titles are often inflated. But that would be definitely one of the concerns for me, is like everyone is looking for a fancy title for their LinkedIn profile, but who in your team is doing the dirty work? And there's a lot of dirty work that you have to do as an early stage startup. I mean, we're a small organization with a handful of people. Everyone has to do things that are maybe not part of the whatever fancy title you have.
Or another often remark is, oh, we talk with customers if we have our product is built, is finished. And it's like typical, often if they're deep in research and have a lot of grants, they're very focused on research and never ask, is there a market? Is somebody looking for my product? And this can be dangerous.
Yeah. If you go down later to the SIGTIC booth, we have a free book, Product Market Fit, that you can take. So it's a great book where you can look at it and understand why it matters so much. It's actually in Switzerland specifically a big problem that we've seen many times, where like people are brilliant and are capable of building a fantastic product, but forget to involve customers or user immediately from the beginning. Pivots can, of course, happen later, but in the process you might have lost already a lot of time or money. Our Swiss startup is a daughter company of UK Holding, which is a daughter company of a Cayman Island incubator. Keep it easy and simple. So like investors do not like these complex setups. It's like then you're hard to grab also as a company. You want to have like a legal framework that's predictable and stable. And I see also specifically lately startups with a setup is like, okay, I have a AG here in Switzerland. I also need to have somewhat an entity in the EU to get access to EIF funding. And Dubai has a lot of money, so I go into the DFC in the financial district in Dubai because they're all the rich Gulfis. Yes, I understand, but from an investor point of view, it's too much fragmentation.
Or if the teams are coming and telling us, oh, the market is huge and we can't solve every problem. So we want to have a focus that we know which market are they looking at and how big is it, and they have really to know also their customer journey and everything. Otherwise they don't understand who is the real customer and who is paying them, who is the decision making if they're buying their product.
There's no competition because we use the latest technology. In somewhat a similar way, it's a comment we hear regularly as well. If you don't find competition, you maybe did a bad research, or there's no need for what you're working on. There is always a need to do that on a global level and perspective. Don't only do the research, what's happening here in Switzerland. Look at it from a broader perspective, because a competitor from abroad could very quickly, in a lot of cases, move into another country. Make that thoroughly, because like you can learn a lot also from mistakes from other players in the past, things they've done wrong. It's not just the usual slide that you put in the pitch deck, I'm ahead of all the competitors, and you look like the best one. Chances are high you are not seeing the full picture, and we are, like, as an investor, seeing it quickly and be honest about it as well. Also highlight, for example, what are weaknesses you have compared to competitors. It makes it way more realistic versus just saying we are the brilliant ones.
Or our ultimate goal is to be the leading solution provider in my hometown in Swiss Alps. So I don't think an investor is happy with this small market. So you have to think big. You can test something in an area or in a town, but you have to think big, and the potential has to be enough big.
I mean, there's nothing wrong to just like focus on a specific geography, but like when you look into like talking to angels or VCs, they look into what's been often called VC investable cases, scalable businesses that really have the potential to exponentially grow. Otherwise, you just like maybe a KMU, or you call it, or SME, which is absolutely fine, but then you probably have a different audience you want to speak to. Another one, I'm the founder and CEO, my sister's accountant, and my mother helps part-time with sales, and we own 1/3 of the company. It's okay to involve sometimes maybe capable and useful family members if they can help to grow your business, but like a pure family business, you're not convincing investors for that. So like you need complementary skill sets and background to make a startup work, and also just for in case things go downhill, try to separate family and the business part, because it can create a lot of bad tensions that investors don't want to see. So my recommendation is really like separate that part as soon as you can.
I don't want investors to give me advice. I only need the money. So we are business angel, and we call it also smart business angel. We want to help them. As not if they know it all better, they don't need us. They have other sources for money, but smart business angel would like to help them and be a sparring partner. That doesn't mean that we are in the operating daily business, but it can be that somebody of us, if you're investing, will be a board member or a board observer and be a sparring partner. Sometimes it's very important for a startup to get the first clients. Maybe we know somebody by potential customers, and then it's much easier to introduce if you can, instead of a cold calling. So we don't invest if they are not responding and they don't want advice from us.
Yes, and also one advice from my point of view, like if you have already angels that give you money and you need something, you have a challenge in your business, be very concrete with your ask and proactively reach out to them. Do not expect that angels come back, how can I help you? And the best startups that I've seen, they have like exactly certain challenges and needs. They come to me and it's like, hey, I know you have this background. Can you help me with that specific case? And I know you're connected with this person. Can you do a warm introduction? An angel investor would for sure help. They put in their own money. So not just a general like, hey, can you help me be as specific as possible?
And also we see it in the reporting. I always say, hey, don't give us just the reports what's great, also what's not good, and where do you need help? Because they have a lot of investors and they have experience, and then please tell us where we can help.
Yeah. And report is a good point. First of all, do a report on a regular basis. It's like, I would say half of the startups, I don't receive regular updates. This is crazy. It's just like, it's not that you have to create a report of 20 pages, just one pager, at least maybe half a year, one, that you're still alive. But it's really like that. And it's unbelievable how many startups don't do this. That helps you to build trust with your investors, because at some point you might need more money. Then you can go back to them and they're like, oh yeah, they have a good rigor and discipline. I think they can do it. I know there can be a lot of reasons why this is not working out properly, but like on the VC side, you would not be able to do this. Angels may be more okay with that, but I definitely encourage you to do this. Could be even little things like friends and family mailing list, where like a lot of people who might not invest just want to follow your progress. Give them, I don't know, a quarterly update what's happening in the company, because some of those people might be later on really interesting people that you want to engage with. So, from questions to a few more other topics. So how to make your tech startup investable? A couple of points. So is a company actually startup? Is a first starting point? Like, are you maybe just an SME, which is fine. You can create a business with 40 people that's doing a great job. But is something that's been built on science or technology that is also scalable, has potential, let's say maybe on a global level even, and is there actually demand for it? And also, is it like, some people call it like, is it like a medicine that people would pay whatever to get it, or is it like just a beauty product? You want to be the medicine where people say, I really have this pain, this need, and if you can deliver that in a scalable way, that could be really interesting. And try to find a business where there's a way to make profit. There's not a lot of interest from investors to invest in like research kind of organizations. So there needs to be somewhat a link, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, where this could turn into something that creates a big opportunity. And when you look also, and a lot of people underestimate this as well, they just shoot emails to big VCs as an early stage startup. Think about the usual funding cycle. Like, you usually start with like family, friends, and fools. I hear the term grandma funding in Switzerland also regularly. It's like there's always someone who can chip in a couple of 10,000s to make your journey to continue. They're the ones who encourage you maybe at the beginning, and then they're like the angels. We just talked about this today. They can play a really, really crucial role to get up and running before like VCs or family offices chime in. The worlds are getting a bit more blurry nowadays. You have also VCs that are getting in really early, and there's some really great ones like Founderful here in Switzerland. But it's like there is like, depending on the amount you're looking for, if you're like a medtech, biotech, you obviously need very often early on a lot more money. But that's kind of the usual cycle. You can imagine, of course, the more money you ask for, the more complex the terms are as well. And also just like to highlight angel investors. What is actually an angel investor? They put in their own private, potentially hard-earned money. And I would say respect this a little bit, that you see that it's a person who believes in you and what you're doing, and they go the extra mile. They often have more patience than a VC. If you're not delivering the numbers for a VC after their first initial investment in the first 12 months, they will move on, support the other portfolio startups. While an angel, he's probably maybe even helping you for the first 10 years, whenever you need him. And make use out of that. because they obviously don't want to lose their investment, but treat them also with like the respect for it. And also, an important point I would like to highlight, there's a lot of like buzz in the news, startup A raised X amount of like dollars or Swiss franc. First of all, if you can bootstrap, try that. There are a lot of grants out there. Try to get the grants. Keep your cap table as long as possible clean. That is really, really helpful. And then involve the right parties, because some of the requirements that VCs have, for example, can be quite challenging to achieve. And think about the broader ecosystem when you want to grow your business. What's the money that's out there?
And maybe also to add on this, from beginning on, also if you got money, keep the cost under control. I always see it more and more. The costs are going up like this, and after 12 months, they're going down like this because they have no money left. And the return is not coming as fast as they thought. And be aware, it's going to take longer that the returns are coming, but don't build up the fixed cost, the personal cost. Be a lean startup as long as you can.
Yeah, exactly. Things you should not do that I would recommend you. Be realistic in your assessment of the business case that you're making to people. And not just saying it's an incredible opportunity with like $1 billion, like these like market size pies or whatever. I'm getting tired of it a little bit, because obviously you make $1 billion numbers or whatever in them. Be realistic in your assessment there, and just make investors understand how you break it down, how you come to this number in a very concrete way. We still see poor presentations. Sorry, nowadays world with all the auto corrections and so on, that's not acceptable anymore. You need to have like these basics in place, and thorough storytelling is something that is not complicated to do anymore. There are lots of guidance in the internet how to do this. And also don't try to be arrogant. And that's something that like I'm still surprised some people do. They have maybe an incredible background and says like, I'm now founder, I have this fantastic idea. And it's just like, I don't know, this angel asked me this question, like whatever. Be humble. Being humble brings you very, very far. And most founders that I've seen that like became really successful were quite humble, listened to people, answered the question properly. Doesn't matter if it's a huge VC or like a small angel, because people talk to each other. And if you have like, call it pissed off someone, likelihood is they share it with other people too, and you don't want that. And that also goes in terms of like sharing openly the current status of what's going on with your company. Don't lie. If you're in an investor relationship, they put money into you, it's a long-term commitment. It's not that you will not talk to this person anymore after 1 or 2 years. You might even talk to them after 8 years. So an open, honest conversation is really, really important, and encouraged to not break the trust. That's really, really important. And also what I'd recommend when you start early on, try not to be the only founder of an organization. A lot of angel investors, also VCs, would not invest in a single person startup. Because what happens if, let's say you as a founder tomorrow get sick? Nothing happens. And this can happen, unfortunately, quite quickly. You just have an accident or whatsoever, and then no one wants to see that your business just like gets on hold.
And also be proactively, really, because the next financing round is coming for sure. And we saw it's in the last 2 years. Also in my portfolio, I had a lot of bridge financing. And if the existing investors can also bridge this situation, it helps you a lot. And therefore, you need to have a good relationship with your investors.
Exactly. So, what do you need? I think it's quite obvious. have a strong team. And that's specifically in early stage startups absolutely crucial. Like you often do not have numbers to show, or they're very small, you can't read a lot into them. You need to convince with your team. And this is where like, if you have like a very great complementary co-founder that you can find, like in Switzerland, a very concrete example, you have someone like with an HSG background from St. Gallen and an ETH technical co-founder, and maybe even someone who worked as a corporate in like, I don't know, in medtech for Novartis, if it's a medtech startup. That's a fantastic combination. Like people with different backgrounds come together, business, tech, experienced person. That goes really, really far. That you can show first form of traction is also really, really helpful on the VC side for sure. On the angel side, it's also good just to see like, and even if it's not revenue, just like you see adoption of a product, you see that you've done some, call it market research with like validation and confirmation from people out there that there's a need for this product. All of this is really, really important. And in Europe specifically, I think you see less people who just invest in big ideas. So they want to see early on some forms of revenue or adoption numbers, and it's more like seen with a more realistic assessment. If you have a crazy idea, it's easier to find this money in the US than here, to be honest. And also think about, I mentioned earlier, your cap table. Keep it as clean as possible. Founders should have as long as possible majority of the shares to be able to make decisions. And that's an important aspect where sometimes, I don't know, some VCs try to grab a big share, some angels, or you're from a university, some professors. It's like, that kills the future of potential investments if like huge shares are already taken. And that like sometimes has shown that some founders at the end did not have a proper exit because they've given way too much already away. And I always say also, like, when it comes to your own KPIs, like, I worked in strategy in Google before, like, the one thing that you need to know all the time is like your numbers immediately, like things like product adoption, revenue, or whatsoever, that you're always on top of it. And it's like, oh, no, I can't remember what's the latest. And it's like, no. That's really, really important. And in the organization, the relevant stakeholders should always be aware of it.
To summarize what we said, and then let's open the discussion, we took Paul Graham's 9 Steps Guide. He was a co-founder of Y Combinator, and I think it puts it together very good what we said. It's like, be comfortable. That means don't show confidence and competence, but don't lie. Also it's very, be honest. It's like, be transparent, honest, be yourself, and show your competence, but not overestimate it. And I think that's very important. Be authentic, don't make a show. It's trust. It's like if you marry somebody, it's also trust. So you will be together with these investors for many years, most of the time. So it's a trust base, because I think 70% it's the team, it's the people, and there it's trust. And as I said already, stick to the true honesty, and that's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you obviously need to know what you're talking about. So if you're like in a certain industry, I always say try to be somewhat of a thought leader in this space. That gives you a huge amount of credibility. And you can start to do this even before you start your startup. Like, become the go-to person for certain topics, and then creating a startup around it is a great starting point. And sometimes it's also a bit about the timing. So like, it's always in cycles. There's like right now maybe a tougher time to find funding, or like a certain product is just not ripe yet for the mass market. Have this realistic assessment on what's going on right now out there, and what you need to do to go on and make sure you're aware what's the market potential right now. If you're an app developer in the 90s, there was not yet a Play or Apple Store available. That might be a bit too early.
And then also, how are you going to act if somebody says no? Also, how to react if the investor rejects you? I mean, this is also important. Maybe the next time you're coming, he's not rejecting. So be also then friendly, try to understand why they're not investing. It can many times be that you don't get funding, and after a while you can convince them, but learn from the investors why they don't invest yet. It's maybe yet, it can be they will invest. So always be respectful. And also pitch with clarity. Also really the pitch, follow a recipe, follow what Stefan said, what has to be, which questions have to be answered in your business case or in your pitch deck. And really try, it's an old story about a 2-minute pitch that you can explain what you are doing, and also somebody not from your field understands it. Try it with somebody in the family and check if they understand it.
100%. One comment on the rejection side. If you're rejected and as a founder looking for funding, you get a lot of rejections. It's first of all, it's a numbers game. If you talk only to 10 people, it's not enough. You have to talk maybe to 100 potential investors. And if they say no, it's like what most of the startups forget is like ask, do you know someone else who might be interested in this? Always add this at the end when you get a rejection. Because the ecosystem, they know each other and it's like, oh yeah, it's true, I might know this person that might have like an interest in this because it's a better fit with his background or what he's trying to do. That's a really short sentence that can go pretty far. So, I mentioned the product market fit book earlier on. So that's something we see regularly in Switzerland being a challenge. I always say we need a bit of more like the UK or Israel way of commercial thinking in Switzerland. Think about this really, really early on. And if you want the book, come down to our booth. We give it out for free. We have also published a book. We do a lot of education, and Cornelia is driving a lot of this for us to make sure we are like helping to educate the ecosystem. Actually, it's not just for investors, it's actually for founders. If you try to understand the investor perspective, read this book, like what are business models, how to structure things, financing, cap table management. It's a free book we give out. You can learn, and it's also not just available as a PDF, we have a GPT. So you can ask all kind of questions like, what is an SPV? How should I structure my cap table? And then you get the results back.
In every language.
And in every language, exactly, yeah. So a very good one, yeah. So that is some part of the homework that you can do that gives you like a lot of interesting insights of how to prepare conversations with investors. And yeah, if you look for funding, we have a community of 400 investors who would like to invest in great startups. We do a lot of events over the year. We have one in 10 days in the Google office for female founders. We have one at the EPFL in Lausanne in June, in EMPA in Zurich in September, at UBS for fintech. So we try to make like events where all kind of great startups in Switzerland have a chance to be on stage in front of the investors. And we basically just need the information about you, your startup, not just a pitch deck, a bit more of the information goes into a central database so that investors can already find you. And then if you're really great, we even put you on stage on some of our events. Yeah, we can talk about this for a lot longer, but like it's a short session and we'd like to make sure, I think we still have a few minutes time. If you have any questions, let us know now.
Thank you very much. My name is Boogie Gosmabos. Oh, thank you, Ferry. All right. Okay. Guess I'm audible. Thank you very much, Stefan and Lady, for the great presentation. My name is Bungi Gosimabaso from South Africa. So my question basically is for the last slide, the funding or pitching opportunity, is it for Swiss-based companies?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to find out if there's international opportunities as well.
So if you have any links to Switzerland in a different way, let's say you're a Dubai entity, but you have a team here in Switzerland that would apply to, then you could also be part of it, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't have to be a registered company?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Do you co-invest? I mean, as an investor, business angels, I mean, if there is another investor.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the ticket size of the business angel is 20K, but we do also syndicates that maybe that's lower.
And it's also very common that
Yeah.
there's maybe already a lead investor who's a VC, and then angels take the same terms. So
Yeah.
it's quite common, yeah.
Thank you guys for the presentation. My name is Brad, and I come from CCM, but I'll be launching my own startup soon as a spinoff. I was actually wondering if you guys had any advice for people coming from a more corporate environment. I previously worked at Medtronic and then moved here to Switzerland, been still working kind of in a corporate environment, but more trying to help incubate through InnoSuisse startups like the ones here to help them get to their MVP for Series A rounds. But what are some common pitfalls that you see for people coming from that corporate environment? Because some of these things that you guys talk about, having the rigor, I see how corporate helps, let's say, support that. But where do we typically see these gaps?
I think one aspect is like people who come from a corporate environment have lost a bit touch with the reality of budgets and how much you can spend on certain topics. That's a really important part. Like Cornelia mentioned earlier, you need to be like very frugal in your spendings. And people who are like being, I don't know, a director at UBS, just like, oh yeah, I don't know, a dinner for one person for 100 Swiss franc is normal. It's like, no, you need to think a bit more in a frugal way, and corporates tend to underestimate how quickly the amount you get, maybe from investors, can be spent. And also supporting structures. I mentioned earlier, everyone needs to get their hands dirty. If you come from a corporate, you're used to having a strong support network for, I don't know, your laptop breaks down. You go to your IT support and they might fix it. If you have a startup, you need to fix it on your own, very likely. And this awareness is sometimes missing when you go into that startup adventure. Do you have anything else you would add?
Yeah, and I think you should connect with local ecosystems. That helps you to share your thoughts and the beginning with other founders. And I think that's important also because you learn a lot from other founders which have done the same before, and they can give you good advice.
Thank you.
To mirror that question,
I'm coming from the consulting area. I had my businesses, several consulting companies for the past 26 years. What is the same question? The pitfalls from someone who had been an entrepreneur for that long, that comes in as a junior to create a startup now. What would be the challenges to mirror that question?
Really make your business case. I think as a established companies, the possibility that the business case comes as you think, like the budget or something, it's much easier than as a new startup. Because then you are positively and think, oh yeah, I will have this revenue and everything, but you don't have any track record. And in the most of the cases, it goes much longer. And you don't have the money and your cost, as I said before, you spend it, but the revenue is not coming then. So I think this is a gap that you have from coming from the from established companies. You don't you don't realize how long it goes to get the first client. Maybe you have a proof of a POC, but that gives you a few thousand francs. And to win the big one, the big companies, it takes so long. And if you have to talk with big companies as a small startup, it's not the same as an established one. Until they trust you, it takes a long time.
Yeah, and that goes also with planning in general. Like, depending on the area you're in, it's like you might think about like a planning of, I don't know, the next 12 months. If you're working in AI space, 12 months is a long time. And there might be surprises around the corner that completely requires you to pivot into a different direction, and take that into account when you talk to potential big companies that you want to have as a partner, that you're like always keeping the door open to a switch in the discussion into a different direction. Yes.
This is Ahmed from Seacraft. My question is about if venture needs investment in a scale of 100 million, let's say. So what would be the role that SICTIC could play? Maybe there is a need for connection to government, especially if venture is a bit strategic, or when is really critical time to a startup to decide to go to US. If you would comment, that would be very valuable. Thank you.
Where to start here? Angels make most sense in the early stages. Like, if you're like already a scale up and you have, I don't know, 100 million revenue or whatsoever, I hope by then you have VCs on board who are so well connected that they could help you in the challenges you have at that stage. And if you're like thinking into international expansion, is like for your next funding cycle, okay, you want to go to the US, it might make sense to have a US VC investor on board because they know the local ecosystem. They can very likely open more doors than just a purely Swiss-based VC who doesn't have a strong network in the US. Think about this strategically. It's like, which markets do you want to go to next? What are like interesting people and profiles that I would need? And like, good example also just with angels is like, you want to have angel investors, like, just do your proper research, which would be perfect angel for you. Like, you have a certain challenge, like, you can find out so much information on LinkedIn about people. It's like, you want to find those ones that can really like allow you to leapfrog in certain areas, open doors that otherwise would be really hard for you to open. And that maybe creates for you a short list of, these would be the ideal candidates for me to invest into me. And do not talk to them as a first step. Try to talk to investors where it's like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. So that you're really well prepared for those conversations for the investors that you really want to have at the stage that you're in. I'm not sure if there's anything else you would like to add here.
That's perfect.
Good.
So,
Yeah.
and if you have any questions afterwards, please contact us. We're there.
Thank you.
Thank you.